Hello.
Hello, friends.
Hello. Welcome to VO Journey Academy Live. My name is Anthony,
I'm Gabby.
and we're back.
We are.
We are back. It was I. My poor little cherub got sick, my daughter, and yeah, and she had I mean, so we like never get fevers in our family, so when you
Oh,
get a
yeah.
fever, you know what I mean, it's bad. So she had a
Yeah.
fever. I
Oh,
think she's coming out of it, but then I was sick, and then my son was sick, and then it was the plague, and I was like, my
I
wife to my
mean,
wife, bring your hazmat suit, it's bad.
yeah.
Um, but we're getting better. We're coming out of it, so that's good.
Well, good.
So it's good to be back. It's good to be
Yeah.
back.
We're glad to have you back.
Yes, thank you. And today is Wednesday, February 18th.
Mm-hmm.
It's hump day. So Gabby, we were going to, well, there's so many wonderful things going on in general, but I want to keep us on topic because there's a lot going on with Academy Voices
Yeah.
and VO Journey as well. But we have some exciting. There's going to be some very exciting. Well, there's always exciting things happening at Academy Voices, but
There are.
definitely even more things coming up. So we'll talk about that at another time. But
You're just gonna tease people and leave them hanging,
we're gonna
man.
tease it because
That kind of
meeting
day.
with the creative and productive team and production team, and I want to we've got lots to do, but anyways, and we'll launch that the right way, because I usually sometimes I put the cart before the horse, because I love sharing.
You get excited.
I do I get very excited, so I often share. I'm just like, that's what we're doing, before I've thought about implementation and all that jazz. So I'm getting better as I get older, hopefully a little teeny bit. But to not switch gears completely from that, but to kind of talk about what we wanted to chat about today. We have in VO Journey Academy, we have an incredible Discord server and we have one of our members asking a question because they had been contacted, I think on Upwork or there was a job on Upwork, either one, but they were wondering about TTS, or text to speech.
Yeah.
And their question was, should I, is this something I should do? Should I worry about voice cloning? Should I worry about them using my voice? What is it? How does this fall into the world we live in now with AI? Because it's so. Gabby, tell us about what before AI. What was TTS? It sounds like a disease.
It does. It really does.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. You have TTS. I know.
It's so text to speech applications. It is it's been used in a lot of different capacities. Largely it's the telephony industry, and please, for the love of God, it's telephony, not telephony. I know sometimes people say it that way, and I'm like, stop it.
Sorry.
Yeah. But telephony, so telephone systems, are kind of, I think, the big application there. And text to speech, for a long time was also used, and I think still is to some extent, for ADA compliance and for people with disabilities, to make their interactive experience easier. And so, yeah, accessibility is kind of a big deal there. TTS, honestly, if we go pre-AI, right, always meant a really nice payday, and it was an exciting opportunity because the recordings and the length of the content, it's intense. It's so that you're being contracted for a good bit of work.
It's interesting too, before we go further into it, I think you'd mentioned this, so we'd mentioned it, but specifically you on the channel too, that AI and voice. I mean, honestly, voice, not the word cloning, no, but voice, but recording voice and using it in a manner in which we're reproducing that voice from someone like typing or adding, has been going on for a long time. It's not something new that just happened in the last couple of years with AI, right?
Yeah.
I think that So that's something that is always kind of intriguing to me. But with that being said, so some of the challenges today though
Mm.
with TTS, right, is
Mhm.
that there is, I think, a worry or a concern now because of even the level at which it's able to be used today,
Yes.
right? That it can then fall into, well, we are modeling now a variety of these text to speech or models off of your voice,
Mhm. Right.
right? And but we are still claiming it's text to speech or TTS.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
I think that's a challenge, right?
It
To
is.
navigate.
It is, but I think it's also that way for IVR. There's really no
Yeah.
distinction there. There's no difference because in both cases, you're talking about, again, recording massive quantities of content. And there is that fear that, especially if there is a tech company involved, are they going to try to use this to replicate me or, put my voice somewhere that I didn't authorize it? So,
No, absolutely. George put down some of the ordeal that David
mhm.
Green from NPR.
I
What is
was
that? I'm not
reading this
familiar with that.
yesterday. So David Green at NPR found himself. It's so funny George brought that up because I did dog ear that article. Let me pull that up really quickly while I'm thinking of it. So basically, his voice was cloned and he is suing over it. And what happened is Google has an artificial intelligence tool called Notebook LM. And so a colleague of his emailed him and said, "Hey, have you done this? Did you basically get hired to do this? Did you lend your voice to it?" And he was like, "I don't even know what you're talking about." So they actually have a sample in the article of just a random piece of green on his show on NPR versus the application. And
Wow.
the AI is disturbingly similar to him. Now, the problem is Google is saying that it's not him and it's purely coincidental and
Hmm.
that yeah, just Google's just trying to say that it's an amalgamation of voices based on an AI model.
Well,
So of
that's what I was
course,
gonna. Yeah.
yeah, but the resemblance is uncanny. I listened to it and I went, "Holy crap." I mean, it's pretty distinct. So anyway, it opened up a couple of different conversations. Of course, now he's, looking into legal action. Um,
Hmm.
there's a mention in the article, interestingly, of I forgot about this because it was many, many years ago when Bette Midler, I believe it was Bette Midler, actually sued. I'm trying to scan this to find it. Sorry. She ended up suing a car manufacturer, yeah, Ford. She's in 1988 because the company used a commercial with a voice actor that was hired to distinctly mimic her sound. And she won just based on the fact that the mimic was so convincing, right? That she was like, look, whether it's not me or not, somebody is still going to think that's Bette Midler and that you're capitalizing on my name and my sound. So
Yeah, this is a really hard. I mean,
it's wild.
you could start to conceive where now, again, I don't know any of the code or how you would ever do this, but I'm sure you could, where like they said, it's an amalgamation of voices. You could start
Mm-hmm.
to, I would assume you start to combine voices, and then
Mm-hmm.
where does that begin and end? Like, so for example, you could go on to AI or ChatGPT or something right now and type in, I want you to use, Stephen King. I want you to use, like, Shakespeare, and
Yeah,
I want you to combine
absolutely.
these to create something, so where does, so then You know what I mean? Who's
Right.
actually the author of like it's so muddied.
I know.
You
I
know?
know. So what's interesting here, and the culmination of this, that the article actually says bills introduced in several states and in Congress have sought to regulate the use of people's voices in AI tools. Green, however, is relying on longstanding state laws that give public figures certain rights to control how their own likenesses are monetized. And they consulted with an AI lawyer who basically said if a California jury finds that the voice of Notebook LM is fully Mr. Green's, he might win. But if they find that it's got attributes he also possesses, but is fundamentally an archetypal anchor person's tone and delivery that it learned from a larger data set, he might not.
That's and that's the whole thing, right? Again, so like, is it the
Yeah.
sound of the voice, or is it the tone? Is it the pitch? Is it
I mean,
the
I think
delivery?
it sounds like him, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I
No, but I
I
mean I
think
mean I mean,
it
like, but in the future, like, does it become
Mhm.
speech patterns? Because then you
Yeah.
could, if you were smart, like, you'd find every single person you could. I mean, if you were on the other side
Yeah.
and say, listen to all of these people who sound similar to, again, I'm not saying
Mhm.
that's out there. I'm just saying, like, this
It
is why
could.
it poses so much, which
It
is
does.
why, just on a side note, shameless plug, we're doing certified human voice,
Right.
right? Because I think that, it's just getting so muddy. And I was talking to
Mhm.
a voice actor earlier today who was sending me stuff where it was part of his job or something, and he had joined, or he had to join some sort of thing for his business, to where it was interacting with an AI voice as like a customer service rep. And he said it was just so freakishly real,
Yeah.
that, it was an AI, but it just sounds so real, like a person, you know what I
Right.
mean? And, even with the responses and how they, so again, where does it begin? Where does it end? That's why I think, it's going to become more important than ever to have that sort of stamp. I know that sounds crazy. I know that seems
No.
like real, but I mean, I really do believe it.
No, it
Um,
is. And I mean, the reality is, and it's such a double-edged sword right now, because on one hand, I can say, well, I could count on one hand, literally, the number of voice actors that this has happened to, or that have been, you know, potentially, maybe, right, cloned by AI without authorization. But it's a very small number in comparison to how many of us do this. But on the other hand, there's that piece that says, well, is it just that they haven't been caught yet?
well, that's what I was going to say. Do you really
Yeah.
think it's a small number, or do you think, like, for example, this gentleman from NPR, right?
Mhm.
Like, he's saying that he's acting as a public figure. Well, that when
Mhm.
I first think about that, I'm like, well, what about the rest of us who aren't
Right.
public
Right.
figures?
Well, and I
Who
mean,
aren't
that's where
protected,
those
or, with the big time actors when they're in SAG-AFTRA,
Mhm.
they're like, well, they're protected because they've got these teams of people who
Yeah.
are negotiating stuff. What about the rest of everybody who doesn't have all that money or
Yeah.
legal teams?
For sure. And that's where the state laws are so important, and
Mhm.
being involved and speaking up in terms of the state legislations, because some states, look, like I know in North Carolina, we've been dealing with this. Our attorney general is all over it. There was something, was trying to get a bill passed that basically said there wouldn't be any new AI laws in the state for a decade. And we're like, this technology is moving way too quickly. We can't wait. We can't wait a decade for new AI laws. That's crazy.
No, and
So,
it's
yeah.
not, and it doesn't it doesn't have to be as I think it's because, they're putting so many people are putting so much investment
Mm,
into this so-called, AI and like data centers, for example, which is a big thing here in Virginia,
yeah.
right? And then which is causing huge power issues and bills just skyrocket. Anyways,
Yeah.
I think that, but it can be done in a way, I think, right, that can still, where both can exist,
Sure.
right? But it's like they people just don't wanna. I feel like, for a period of time, there was a good momentum, but then I kinda feel like that's kind of come slowed down some, unless I'm just,
Mm,
Like
know,
from law's standpoint, right? Like, where's like I'm not seeing a great deal of it just because it's just it's
yeah,
always right when technology or things grow, it just outpaces,
yeah, yeah.
laws.
Well, and I mean, that's one of the reasons why, Nava is on Capitol Hill constantly trying to lobby this.
Mhm.
It is definitely something we need to be aware of. We need to have concern for sure. George also mentioned that the actors who have sold their rights, yes, that's a thing. I was shocked when I went to one of the databases that's probably one of the better known companies. They're one of the ones that have really strict licensing processes, and they guarantee obviously the actors are paid, and they don't just blindly sell your voice to anything. So the actor does have the ability to say whether or not they want to participate in a project before the AI is implemented. But I was stunned when I saw some of the names that are up there. I was like, holy crap. And some of them are what I would consider to be C or D list screen actors, and the others are just relatively well known voice
Listen,
actors.
I
Yeah.
have I have feelings about this just because of also us, and I know you're very
Oh,
knowledgeable about
yeah.
the history of theater and acting in our
Hmm.
country, and how the change from everything was at one time in our history, not the U.S. history, but in general, controlled by
Mm,
actors in general,
right.
right? But it's a very United States of America
Hmm.
thing where that's changed out of the hands of
Right.
the actor being the owner of the company, being the producer, all these things,
Mm,
to private equity, right? To producers and things, to where now they control all of that stuff, and actors, for money purposes, because it's the way our country runs, had to sold a lot of their
yeah.
just ownership for money,
It's
and
there. It's
it
scary stuff.
perpetuates itself.
Yeah. And trust me, there are times where I go, I think any day now, we are going to see a long dead but very famous voice actor resurrected.
Mm.
Because all it's going to take is for their family to sell the rights to the likeness, and then using archives recreate it. It's very, very possible. Ben just asked on this topic, I've heard of voice actors using software to clone their own voice. Is that something you guys have heard of? So there's two sides to that. And Ben, one is the side we're talking about. It's the actors who are working with an AI company to clone themselves. And so they're using that company's technology. I mean, and really what it comes down to is the actor themselves, they're not
Which is
doing anything except recording.
which is big a
Yeah.
big thing about like 11 Labs. Like some of
Yes.
these plays big, like you'll record, we'll use, but we'll pay you.
Yes.
Like you still get paid for the
Hmm.
use of your voice.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So there is that.
Yes.
And that's a question that each person has to answer for themselves. I
Right.
mean, at some hand, it sounds kind of nice, be like, hey, as long as I control my voice, you know what I mean? Like I
Hmm.
own it still, and someone has to pay me,
Right.
you know what I mean, for it, then is that okay for you, as you know what I mean? And that's up to you to decide. I don't know. I still have mixed feelings about all of it, but
Hmm.
there is those out there who are trying to, that's another word, like ethically
Yes.
using AI, right?
Yeah, it's like ethically leasing
Right.
your voice essentially. And for an actor like Tom Kane, I can literally see where it could be the difference between, okay, if you want to get Tom Kane light, then you can pay a much smaller amount and get the clone, the AI version, or
Mhm.
if you want right, if you want the genuine article, then you're going to pay a premium price for such service. So that's an interesting way that we could see some of this shape, especially for those really, really in demand people. Now, as far as voice actors who maybe, I guess, have their own studio, they're doing this themselves, Ben, I don't know about that. There's been some weird speculation about people who are like, yeah, like, I mean, here to give you an idea, and I mean, my God, we could talk about this all day. I did a quick search in the App Store just 2 days ago on voiceover apps, looking for some research. They're buried. They are now buried under so much AI garbage. There's no way to find them because all of the voiceover apps are now clone your voice for AI, use your own voice to make your voice for content creators. That's really what they're targeting.
Right.
Yeah. They're targeting content creators and people who make their own videos to, instead of having to do their own voiceover, they go through a prompt system that then ultimately clones them. That's terrifying on a number of levels, but the big one that I would be really concerned about if that was me is just going, okay, again, what is taking that company from taking your voice and using it elsewhere? I feel like it's another way to just feed the beast and a very unfortunate outcome.
Well, right, because I mean, this is something that, if you any stuff because of Academy Voices too, we in the direction we're taking with certified human voice and
Mhm.
everything we're doing, and looking into the legal part, no matter what, I mean, any company will always reserve the right to be able to change their
Yes.
policies in
Right.
the future. And that's why, like, for us, that's why I'm making sure we have contracts with
Mhm.
people too, so that it's something that is tangible other than, one day someone just saying, well, we're changing the rules. Sorry, you know what I mean? And
I can very easily see where somewhere out there, there's some creator who's going to end up in a lawsuit because they downloaded an app, they tried it, they didn't even use it. And years later, they're going to find their voice in some weird application they never
mm,
authorized. And they're going to go, how did this happen? And the app is going to go, well, you signed the user agreement.
mm.
And that's going to be the loophole. And that is going to create a whole nother set of kind of uproar from this process.
You know what's really scary
So,
too, which would be which would be just ridiculous, but you know
mm,
how, like, your phone, and I'm not going conspiracy here, but you know how, like, we're talking about something and you look at your
mhm,
phone and then, like, the thing pops up because it
yeah,
does listen to you. You know what I mean? I mean, like, where, like, and if that's not unrealistic,
mhm,
exactly what you're saying. You sign a
yeah,
consent form and it's like, well, we reserve the right to be able to use your voice.
mhm,
Where does that stop? You know what I mean? Then
yep,
all of a sudden they're cloning everyone who has that stuff because you signed the right without realizing because no one reads that stuff.
exactly. It's definitely crazy. I mean, and it's a funny thing, as a voice actor in 2026, because it used to be when I got an email or a DM or whatever from somebody going, "Hey, Gabby, I just heard you on such and such here," right? I would, if I remembered the job off the top of my head, of course, I'd be like, yeah, haha, that was me, fun, whatever. But if I didn't recall the job, I would go try to track it down, or I would try to find it or listen to it, or at least circle one of my agents in specifically so we could see if either an audition was used without proper authorization, or if a client simply recycled an old recording. Now I have to go track it down to make sure it's not a cloned version of me. It's crazy.
That is crazy.
Absolutely crazy.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I always wanted the same thing. That someone's like, "Hey, I
Mhm.
just heard you." Like, I'm in Canada and I just
Yeah.
heard you. And I think I'm like, "What was it?" So
Yep.
I'm like,
Exactly. What was it for
what
exactly?
was
What did
it
you
for?
hear? Because
Right,
yeah, I
right.
have to.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so I think that, this whole thing was we were framing around the question of, text to speech and
Mhm.
some of these more traditional, like IVR and things that voice actors have done for quite a long time now,
Yeah.
you know, can we look at them the same, with the same precaution, or,
Mm.
not worry about the things we were talking about just now about our
Yeah.
voices being used for other things that we don't want it to be used. And honestly, without some sort of contract in place that you have signed, the answer, from me, in my
Yeah.
opinion, is no, you cannot be
No.
sure anymore.
No. There has to be a contract. There has to be AI clauses. There have to be precautions taken. This is just the world we live in now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you
Um,
can't rely on whatever web, and if you're using a website, their best interest is themselves,
mhm.
right? So
Yeah.
like I was mentioning this in VOJ earlier in our Discord, you know what I mean? I mean, again, because we run Academy Voices,
Mhm.
that's one side we know we're fine, but
Right.
most right, most sides, like most, honestly, sadly, even, I mean, and I'm not starting an argument or fight with any website,
Mm.
but we know voices.com, we know all of these places are open for business
Yep.
for AI companies.
Yep. It's true.
So, you can't rely on them. You have to rely on your own, contracts, your own stuff.
Yeah. Very true.
But the positive thing is that's why those exist.
Mhm.
And that law that trumps everything. If you have that contract. Now, one thing I will remind everybody, I remember this, because we have so my our business lawyers, or whereas from Blank Rome, they're in Philadelphia. We had them come to one of our conferences, our online conferences back. And one thing he said, lawyer, was, just to get it out of the way, bad
Mm.
people will do bad things.
Oh, yeah.
So no matter what we do, there are going to be people, probably, and that's what happened. It sounds like with this guy from NPR.
Mhm.
Somebody took his voice. They probably, I mean, who knows? I mean, they stole it, they sold it, they did something to it. Somehow it got there.
Yep.
Because he was so popular, people know it. That's probably how it was found. I mean, you think about
Mhm.
how many of us it's being used, that because we're not
Yep.
like that. But I'm saying that, bad people are going to do bad things, and that's because we've joked, you and I, we have so much out
So much
there,
content.
it wouldn't matter. I mean, someone's easily steal our stuff.
Crazy.
I mean, you can't
Mhm.
stop someone from downloading these videos and taking your stuff. It is what it is, but that's
Mhm.
illegal. You're not
Yep.
supposed to do that.
Nope.
But there's going to be bad people who do bad things. So we have to try to protect ourselves as much as much as we can. But at the same time, it's just like we get bombarded every day by people trying to scam us through
Mhm.
email and all kinds of stuff. It's just, it's sad. It's
Yeah.
tough, but it is what it is.
It is.
So anyways, we've been chatting for a while on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's pick up the discussion tomorrow, shall we?
We
Uh,
will, and maybe talk a little bit more about Academy Voices and some of the stuff that we're going to be doing, which I think is going to be really exciting for everybody to hear. So have a wonderful day, everyone.
Bye,
Talk to you. Oh
guys.
wait, someone who is this? Forever Young, is that? I think that's is that Nancy? An acquaintance has written a book. She is using 11 Oh, okay. We gotta know this now. It's written a book. She's using 11 laps to take her voice to narrate her book. She's convinced the audiobook will have the nuances of her voice.
Well, good
I
luck with
mean,
that.
it's her, I mean, like, and that's, the one thing I always said, and I know Gabby, I think pretty much feels the same way. And that's why I said for in each individual,
Mhm.
I might not agree, but I support your decision to make your decision.
Right.
Like, I would
Right.
support your decision to make it for yourself. And if I don't know, I have you ever, I never have tried to, I don't know how good 11 Labs is. I don't know, but I know they're very popular.
Mhm.
And weren't they in part of the contract with SAG-AFTRA? Was that 11
I
Labs?
believe so.
It was
I
11
believe
Labs.
they were
Wasn't
one
it?
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know, because I know there's a lot of famous people who had signed
Mhm.
on, and the idea is that they can use their voice. You can use their voice, but they get paid.
Right.
And there are some websites who have taken that to where you can use their voice. You go on as a voice actor, you put your stuff up there, and
Mhm.
the rates are a little bit less, but they're still pretty
Yeah.
high rates. You know what I mean?
Well, because
So
everybody still has to get paid. So
exactly.
there's the,
Exactly.
you know, it's an
Yeah,
interesting thing.
it is an interesting thing, but hopefully we can, keep working with people to let them know, that we'd love to do it for, to do it for them as
Yeah.
real voice actors, as
Yeah.
real people. All right. All right, you guys.
All right, guys.
Have a wonderful day. We will talk to you tomorrow. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.